What's the cheapest, stingiest thing you've seen someone do? Story 1. I went for a meal with a group of about 6 friends. When it came time to divvy up the bill, one friend said he hadn't got cash on him, but if we all chipped in the cash for our share, he would put on his card. He was also very keen to ensure we all put in a decent tip in the UK. So tipping is common in a restaurant, but not required. Our friend went up to the bar to pay, but unfortunately for him, another member of our party went to the restroom at the same time and was surprised to notice him paying in cash. We pulled him up on this, and it turned out the stingy was using our tips to cover his part of the meal. This chap has forevermore been ribbed as having short arms and deep pockets. He is trusted by no one. Story 2. My grandmother, as she didn't own a computer, had to mail in all her bill payments. One month she didn't get her water bill, or it was delivered to someone else by accident. Whatever the cause, her next bill was for both that month and the previous month, and included a late fee that was less than the cost of a stamp. For the rest of her life, she skipped the bill 1 month, and then paid both the next because she saved a few cents by using just 1 stamp instead of 2. This was a woman who had somewhere around $1 million in the bank when she died. Story 3. I meet with 3 buddies at a very nice bar restaurant. Let's call them Bob, John, and Travis. John has been going to this place for years, and the owner is an extremely close friend of his. Because of this, we get comp drinks all night, not just beers, but scotch, vodka, etc., etc., etc. Maybe $100 worth of free booze between us. Great times, right? No, why? Because Bob is a cheap, smelly little. As we're drinking our asses off free of charge, we're also ordering food to make up for it. Pasta, chicken, fish, the works. But Bob isn't happy because Bob doesn't want to pay for anything. So what does Bob do? He asks for the special appetizer for $10. But asks the owner to make it dinner size. The owner responds, "Do you mean that you want the dinner instead of the appetizer? Duh." All right, so we piggy out. We drink our asses off. Bob's wasted. We wait and wait and wait for Bob to eat a table-sized platter all by himself. B.O.B. Then we get the bill. As I've noted above, it's about $100 less than it should have been, and we're all thrilled. Well, all of us except for Bob, because Bob's meal is $19 instead of $10. As John reminds him that he drank his weight in free liquor and begs him not to make a scene, Bob proceeds to go up to the owner behind the bar and throw a fit about the $9 he should have saved on his special dinner-sized appetizer. The owner is stunned. John is furious. Travis hates confrontation, so Travis slinks out the door. I'm just a wallflower. Bob slams his fist on the counter. Bob points at the chalkboard. Bob whines and whines, and WHHINESSS that he doesn't have the money to pay for the extra $9, though. He works a really cushy job and eats out 3 times a day. He calls the owner names. He cries. He actually cries. Then he sits his bloated down, pitches in $10, and refuses to tip, and he smiles. He is smiling, and that sets John off. John flips his, calls Bob every name in the book, and makes a go at me for trying to cover Bob just to get us out of this place. He gets up on his chair. He throws handfuls of money in Bob's face like the guy's some fat, hairy Russian stripper. Women are stunned. The owner is laughing. Travis is looking in the window, and I'm stuck with Bob. As John finally pays the bill, tips his friend $100, and stomps outside, sending Travis flailing down the street. Bob looks at me. I look back at him. His only reaction, "What a Jew." Am I right? I leave Bob at the table alone. We don't eat with Bob anymore. My mate lays out a certain number of sheets of toilet roll, if you ask to use his loo. Story 4. I was working in a restaurant in Montreal, and the staff decided to all have a picnic and a few beers together. We all pitched in to get steak, salads, and drinks. I invited a friend that didn't work with us, and he showed up with a potato. Yes, 1 potato. He drank the beer, ate salad and steak. Oh, and he ate his potato too. Story 5. I was at a friend's apartment about 5 years ago for a moving and get-together with about 10 others. Halfway through the party, I used the bathroom, and when I went to wash my hands, I noticed he had not gotten around to buying hand towels yet. Giving him some slack and understanding it was his first place, I figured I would just grab a few squares of toilet paper and simply dab my hands with that. Not a big deal, but the roll of toilet paper was empty, so I just dried my hands on my pants and let my friend know he needed to replace the roll. After I tell him, this mother walks into the bathroom, grabs what he thought were the cleanest squares of used toilet paper from the trash can, and wraps them around the empty roll. I don't know what those squares were used for, or what possessed him to do something so unsanitary and absurd, but I didn't end up staying at the party much longer to ask him why. Very easily the cheapest, stingiest, and most disgusting thing I have witnessed in my life. I was really that close to the guy who threw the party, and that basically confirmed that I wouldn't be making any attempts to further the friendship. Story 6. A school friend's dad made her bread sandwiches because he didn't want to waste money on pointless fillings when the bread would swell in your stomach with water. Oh, and that sandwich fillings were a part of the capitalist machine that rules us all. Story 7. My flatmate stole TP from his office when it was his turn to buy. only he stole one roll and thought that was equivalent of the 16 pack the rest of us by SRSLY. You don't have to buy that often, and it's like $2 to $3 for 16. Story 8. A girl in undergrad lived off campus her senior year. While on campus, she would fill her gym duffel bag up with university rolls of toilet paper, napkins, paper towels, etc. She said she managed the whole year off her school's paper products. She would also go to thrift stores and search out Patagonia fleeces. They have lifetime warranty, so she would ship it back to Patagonia, saying the zipper was broken, etc., and they would send her a new one. She was master-level stingy and scammy. Story 9. I'm sure there's much worse than this, but my boss is a millionaire. He owns a lot of companies, is well known in his industry, and is generally a baller. He splurges on us if we've done well. Always picks up the tab if we're out. Doesn't put a spend cap on things like Christmas parties. But one time I had to fly from the UK to America. To save money, I had to get 4 flights instead of one direct one. My journey took 24 hours instead of 11, and I had to do 3 days work in the US literally 7 hours after I landed, jet lag and all. If that wasn't annoying enough, the flight was booked to take off at 9 a.m. That meant getting to the airport at 6 a.m. I don't live anywhere near an airport and had to travel south to London, then get across London, and then travel south for another hour to the airport. The whole journey could have been done in 3 hours at a push. Due to the time of day public transport was limited, there was one train I could get that would have allowed me to make it. Considering there would have been 6 stages to my journey, I didn't want to risk any delays that would mean me missing my flight. An old neighbor of mine was a taxi driver. I called him up, got mates rates on a journey. The taxi costing a whole 10 more than my public transport journey would have done, but taking less than a third of the time. And he threw something of a fit in front of the entire office about this, about how it was lazy, about how there was ways I could do it on public transport that would be cheaper. He didn't understand that not living in London means I'm limited to 1 train per hour. There's number 24-hour buses. If the train doesn't show up or is late, that's it. After a while, he calmed down and said it was fine to get the taxi if I didn't take any luggage. He wanted me to travel with just hand luggage. It wouldn't have been the end of the world if I didn't have to carry about 50 brochures, a ton of contracts, and loads of other, which filled half a normal suitcase. He also said I could just wear my suit on the plane, the same suit I was going to wear for the next 3 days to save space. I was traveling for over 24 hours each way and going to the West Coast in peak summertime, where temps were 45 degrees Celsius during the day. It was so weird to see such a generous man being so uptight about what was only around 50 worth of extra cost to make the experience remotely bearable. Story 10. My dad once took a broken fork to the aerospace company he worked for and had a highly skilled welder weld it back together. This was a cheap dinner fork. Story 11. My great-grandmother apparently took a Ziploc to buffets and, after eating, would go back one last time, pile food on her plate, then store in the bag. She grew up during the Great Depression, though Edit grew up with a really thrifty family. So I have more. We ended up going to a lot of events for free because my dad was super stingy, but he wanted our family to have fun, even if we didn't have a lot of money to spend on entertainment too. My dad randomly became friends with a woman he met at the movies. She had handfuls of free tickets to movies before they were widely released, just so the movie critics could watch a show with a full audience. We ended up seeing hundreds of movies for free, even though we had to get there early for good seats. These were the best types of showings, too, because they held promotions and gave out free posters, t-shirts, and knickknacks. Saw a lot of good movies and some really bad ones. I still know we have a Pan's Labyrinth poster up in the attic somewhere. I think we have a shirt from The Dark Knight, too. 3, speaking about free events. My dad signed up for some Disney theme parks roster whenever they would film something at Disney World and needed extras. I think he knew about this from chatting up with some random stranger who worked for Disney and befriending them as well. Would go to film shoots and each person get a 1-day ticket to any Disney theme park. This was the only way we could afford Disney for 4 people without a year-long pass. Unfortunately, Disney isn't as fun without money because you miss out on a lot of the food and souvenirs, but other than that, it was nice to attend for free. Speaking of food, we would bring food from home to eat instead of eating there. Some film shoots were early in the morning, and we could roam the park the same day before everyone else showed up. So we were first in line for everything. It was pretty nice for my dad has this strange habit of befriending random strangers at events and them having extra tickets to places. Had also have friends that knew about free concerts and festivals everywhere in the state of Florida. We had free tickets to see the Circus 2X, the Knights Jousting on Horses dinner thing. A lot of figure ice skating shows, so many museums, and a shitload of concerts. 5. He and my mom always entered radio contests, and they were lucky enough to win a lot. More free concerts and some with really good seats. One saw Elton John first few rows, saw Michael Bible when he was just getting popular. Funny story. During the concert, he hugged my mom. 6. He would bid on eBay for vacations to timeshares on weeks the owners couldn't use instead of buying nights for hotels. We stayed in a nice cabin in rural Virginia for cheap. We stayed in a ritzy presidential suite in Washington, D.C., all for dirt cheap. This was back when the internet was not as popular, so I'm not sure whether these rental timeshares are still a thing. I could go on, but overall my childhood was a lot of fun, even if my parents were stingy. I feel like their stinginess really helped us go to so many places as kids because they were driven to find all these free events because, in the end, it was really fun for them to do. Story 12, when I was a waitress, people would order water with lemons and extra sugar packets, apparently. They would make ghetto lemonade. I started charging extra for the lemon slices, like seriously, the lemonade is one. Story 13, well, my roommate, despite often bragging about how much money he has saved up and buying weed every other day, so he's clearly got plenty to spend. 1. Uses my SOs and my toothpaste. 2. Picks my used razors out of the trash can and uses them on himself. 3. When it's his turn to buy toilet paper, he buys a 4-pack of the smallest, shittiest quality TP he can find. I'm pretty sure he'd buy 1 roll at a time if he could. 4. Use my shampoo and try to hide it by putting water in it back up to full. 5. When so began his brewing hobby, roommate was all for helping out in exchange for beer. Until he realized he was expected to chip in and help with the process. That partnership ended real quick. 6. Broke the toaster trying to cook hash browns in it, and I don't mean the oval-shaped ones. Tried to buy one at a crappy thrift shop and complained he had to buy a brand new one at full price. A whopping 30. Real winner he is. Story 14, in college I lived with 4 other guys, and they refused to buy toilet paper. It was disgusting. They would just hop in the shower to wash off, but never had toilet paper. Oftentimes if they really needed to, but didn't want to go through the trouble of showering after they would have another go get napkins from the McDonald's that was super close to us. I had my own toilet paper and wasn't letting them use it up just to never replace it. Did this several times. But one of my roommates, I guess, was like, it'll take one for the team. He worked at a gym, so he took a massive roll of toilet paper that goes in their public restrooms. I mean like a 16-inch diameter, but 2 5-inch wide roll of toilet paper. Cheap, but that's college. Story 15, my brother had an old Fiat 127. The gas dial hadn't worked for a while, so sometimes he would run out of gas. One time he was with my young nephew when it happened again. They pushed it for like half a mile. Arriving at the gas station, he realized it was rather more expensive than another station further up the road, so they pushed it for another half mile. Story 16, when I was a teen, a guy who I respected a lot paid me to rake his yard. After we're done, he drives me home, and on the way we stop at the local country store to buy a soda and snack. I didn't expect him to pay for me because I had my own money now that I'd just earned raking his yard. So I put my merch on the checkout counter, and then he slides his stuff beside mine like he's going to pay, except he didn't. The clerk looks to me, since I had money out to pay for it, and he looks at me too, as if to say, well, pay her. I was confused, but paid for it. He apologized later, and I lost respect for him. Story 17, I used to work as a waiter for a country club. I had a woman tell me she was done with her plate, so I cleared it off the table. When I returned to ask if they wanted dessert, she asked where my leftovers. I calmly responded that she had no food left on her plate. Her response, oh, I wanted you to box up the skin from my baked potato so I could give it to my dog, requested to see the manager. 80 bill completely free of charge. To this day, I swear she had it planned the whole time. Story 18, to preface this, I am a chick. At the time I had no money for makeup and was being told I didn't look professional enough despite being well-groomed and in uniform. Once I realized they meant they wanted me to apply makeup, I was sort of ID byproduct of the store I worked at with my employee discount. That also was sold at Walmart. Nicked the bottom of a lipstick out, returned to Walmart, saying it was broken when I bought it, made a little money back for food, work stopped telling I didn't look professional, and when I got my taxes I went and invested about $200 into nice makeup. Used it for like 4 months, and wound up moving, haven't really used any of it again, except for a concert I went to. It's a shame. Edit, wow, I'm surprised this got so much feedback. For all those interested, yes, I was working a service desk at a grocery store. At the time I was living paycheck to paycheck and just making ends meet, so yeah, I needed the job. I got like $300 and some change back from taxes, so I went to Sephora, where it's easy to spend a ton on makeup. Manager who told me I needed to look more professional was a female. Also don't get why guys are required to have so much done about beards at places. Unless you're in fast food where extra hair on your face can be a health thing, I don't see why it matters. A family friend of mine once told his parents that he was sharing his school lunches with a classmate and that he was worried about this classmate's financial situation. His parents were concerned, too. They met with the principal. Eventually, they asked their child which classmate, specifically, was in possible financial trouble, redacted Pritzker. One of the wealthiest families in the country, billionaires. We think he'll probably be okay. Story 19, my friend went to stay with a new boyfriend who she met on eHarmony. They had met a few times before, talked on the phone loads, but hadn't spent that much time together on her first night there. He poured them each a glass of red wine. She was exhausted and only drank half of her glass before she was ready to go to bed. He put the glass with the remaining wine in the refrigerator. The next morning with breakfast, he pulled the glass out of the refrigerator. She didn't touch it. Again, he put it back in the refrigerator. Again that night for dinner, he pulled the glass out and ended up putting it back in the refrigerator. At this point, she wasn't drinking it on principle. The next night, they went to a function at a hotel. She did drink a glass of wine there, and he tipped $1 to the bartender. When they got home, he pulled up QuickBooks and entered the dollar into his budget. She left the next day. Yep, he pulled out the glass of wine as she was packing to go. She finally snatched the glass and downed it in one giant gulp. She said it was disgusting. That's the last time they ever saw each other. Story 20. I went to somewhere in Asia on a site bug that made the whole ticket cost only $100. That is right. It was supposed to cost $2,000 on the return flight. It stopped in a major town in my country, and from there, I had to take a return flight back home. Problem was that I made a mistake of booking that regional flight before the international plane arrived. However, on the return international flight, there was a delay that made the plane arrive 1 hour or more later, and that made a lot of people upset because they lost the time for their other flight. I joined the crowd, putting on a fake sad face. Now, my plane had departed more than 10 hours before my mistake for booking so early, but I claimed it was the delay that made me miss my flight. They paid for every rescheduled flight, including mine, because the rescheduled regional flight to my town was late at night. They also gave me a free $50 lunch on the airport, multi-billion-dollar company. I changed the way I thought about big companies. Some of them care a lot about their customers, and I always think of that flight company first when buying an international flight. TLDR, almost free international flight. Story 21, hang out with a group of friends around 6 to 7 people, and we decided to chip in for a large meal, except for one guy. He said he's not that hungry because he just ate. When the meal arrived, we all started eating and chatting at the same time, and that guy just kept eating, and once he's done, he pretended he got a call and left us. Story 22, I watched a guy buy all his textbooks each quarter, then scan each page on his copier, and then the chief sent them back for a full refund. Also, he took the library's paper. To top it off, he would sell them in 3-ring binders at the end of the quarter from 20 to 30. Granted, most were business books, so if someone were to pay for them, they were most likely 100 to 200 each. Story 23, went out to dinner. Check came in. Let's say it was a total of 40 for 4 people. 3 of us put in 12 each for our parts and tips. The 4th person looked at the cash we put down, counted it, and put in 4. Story 24, when I lived in Paris after college, my housemate and I were really poor. She worked out how much everything cost in each supermarket and would go to 3 supermarkets to get the best value from each fruit from one place, meat from another, etc. She doesn't like sugar in her coffee. I do, whenever we went for coffee one. 50 espresso. She would take the extra sugar sachets for the coffee I have at home. This didn't bother me at all. They're the perfect serving size. Her mom came to visit us and just went out and bought a bag of sugar for us. Story 25, there's a big fishing tournament every summer near me, and the people that set it up go to Home Depot and buy like $2,000 worth of flowers and then just return them. Story 26, confession time. When I smoked and was in the army, toward the end of the month I'd be broke. So I'd go down to the smoking area and collect dog ends of tobacco left and make my own Raleigh out of it. Story 27, my mom's cousin would invite us over for a barbecue and go around to each person and ask if they want a hamburger or a hot dog. I got the stink eye once for asking for one of each. When it got dark out, her husband would want to do a fireworks show and asked everybody to chip in money for it. There were cheap fireworks too, or to be more accurate, some sparks danced on the ground for a few seconds. One of their dogs was a massive when it came to food. We had dessert pastries, and right as I was bringing my Claire to my mouth, this of a dog jumps up onto me and snatches it out of my hand. Because of the whole 1 per person ration, I had no dessert that day. Another time, the dog attempted to eat their younger daughter's hot dog. He didn't actually get it, but several of us had witnessed that the hot dog had been licked. My cousin and her husband said that their daughter could still eat it. She was only 3 years old and wouldn't know the difference. My uncle eventually stepped up, taking the hot dog and throwing it in the trash can, leaving them the options of making one more hot dog because we all knew there were more in the freezer, or letting their daughter starve because they were too cheap to make extra food. I think they've been less stingy since that incident, but none of us go to their barbecues anymore. Story 28, so I work at a grocery store, and every year we have a donation competition for muscular dystrophy. We have people sign and buy shamrocks that go on the walls, and we have a small cup for change donations. One day, a lady comes in very rude, resting face, everything's a problem, you get it. So as I was checking her out, she digs through her wallet looking for a 100 bill. The order was 53, 59, she found one, and instead of taking change, she goes, looks like there's 59 cents in here, and digs out 59 cents from the donation cup. I wanted to say something, but she would have made a scene instead. I just threw $1 into the cup. Story 29, went to a wine bar with a Groupon. The place was super dirty and just not worth staying at and spending more. So we got up to leave. They asked us to wait and brought us a tab for like 40 cents. The tax, never have I been taxed on top of a Groupon. Story 30, I used to go to grocery stores and photograph right down the lot S, expiration dates and customer service numbers off of family-sized frozen dinners. Bags of chips, dip, snacks like that, and keep track of what everything is. Then I go home and call the numbers and complain that the food was spoiled or the film was opened, freezer burned, had something gross in it, etc. They ask for your address and mail you coupons for loads of free food. Good at any grocery store. I basically lived on these coupons from customer complaint hotlines when I was living in my first apartment. Story 31, I didn't see it, but my friend did. And I just have to mention it since it's quite horrible. So my friend went to an ice cream shop with his older sister and his younger cousins. His younger cousins were around the ages of 5 to 8, so pretty young, and my friend and his sister's age are around 23, 27. Anyways, they all get ice cream. And when it was time to pay, my friend's sister told the cousins that they would have to pay for their own ice cream. My friend was in shock since he's pretty stingy himself, but not to that level. Both of the cousins were kind of speechless since they never expected to pay for their own ice cream, no. So when she said that, they both realized they didn't have any money and were about to give back the ice cream. Of course, my friend swooped in and said he would pay for it. But seriously, a 27-year-old telling a 5'8" to pay for their own ice cream is incredibly stingy. How can one become so cheap? Story 32, guy I worked with used to unscrew the jar off the coffee dispenser on the wall, empty into a plastic bag, and take it home. Same with the sugar, cheap office coffee. Story 33, I have a mate who doesn't believe in tipping necessary herein. ZA, most waiters don't earn a wage and live off tips only. Rather than undertip the expected 10, if the service wasn't 5-star, he'll use any excuse he can think of to not tip at all. He's also known to round off his portion of the split bill downwards. Story 34, after dinner, a friend of my parents came up to my dad in a parking lot with a $10 bill and said, "Here you go, you left way too big of a tip." Dinner was around 85, so my dad left 15. Mr. Chiapas couldn't stomach someone leaving a tip of over a few dollars, no matter the size of bill. I've never seen my father so angry. Also, I had a notoriously cheap college roommate. I invited him to a minor league baseball game with some friends. My buddy noted that had been missing for probably 15 to 20 minutes. We eventually found him walking around polishing off the last sips left in abandoned beer cups. He also refused to buy soap for in the shower, meaning he only rinsed when he showered and stunk all the time. Also, I once walked in on him spraying Febreze on a shirt. I asked if he had a date or something, and he said that he was doing laundry, since the bottle said it was antimicrobial, further explaining the stink. Story 35, whenever I go to a coffee shop with friends, I take all the unused creamer sachets, plus a handful more. They're the perfect serving size, and I can't beat to buy an entire tub from the supermarket. Story 36, my friend's dad would abuse Walmart's return policy. He would do things like get a gallon of milk, drink most of it, fill it back up with water, and take it back to exchange it. Story 37, I was a waiter in college and worked a table of 20 from the same family. We had a server station right behind the table hidden from view. After I dropped the check, I went back to the server station to wait for someone to pay. There was a general argument between the two of the men at the table about who will pay the bill. The discussion ended in "I'll pay the tab if you leave the tip." While I ran the credit and brought back the receipt, the guy paying the tip took the check holder, pulled his wallet out, and said, "Is this 100 good?" As he placed a crisp $100 bill in the check holder. They all sat for a few more minutes, and then broke to leave. The guy who put the 100 in for a tip waited until everyone headed out, and I stood there ready to collect the check. He took the 100 bill back out and put it back in his wallet in front of me. This wanted everyone to know he was tipping $100, and then stole it from me before I could collect it, leaving me nothing. Story 38, my friend sat in his car for 3 hours on a Saturday night rather than pay cover charge. My sister's wedding, bought plants at Home Depot and returned them the next day, borrowed her wedding dress, asked us to help decorate with paper fold-over ornaments when we got there, and her husband makes over $100,000 a year. Story 39, my boyfriend was a waiter, and he told this story to me. Dude and his GF come into the restaurant asking if they're hiring. They fill out applications and decide to eat dinner while they're there. Boyfriend tells him the specials. Dude asks the difference between sandwich and a meal. Boyfriend says a meal comes with more, but it costs 12 instead of 6. Dude scoffs and acts like no one in their right mind would pay the 12. Dude then orders water with extra lemon. Boyfriend brings him 2 lemons. Dude asks for more. When the time comes for the check, boyfriend can clearly see from the register this was a very small mom and pop type restaurant that the dude has a bunch of cash in his wallet, like multiple 20s, yet the dude asks his GF to pay the bill because he doesn't have any money. After my boyfriend told me the story, I asked if there were empty sugar packets on the table. Boyfriend said yes, but was confused. I had to explain to him that the dude made his own lemonade but only paid for water. Boyfriend died laughing. R.I.P. Story 40. My father gets free boxes at the post office. Free as in you're supposed to fill it, bring back, and pay to ship it. He skips that part and just takes the priority mail boxes home. Didn't know about his routine until around Valentine's Day when we were running errands, and he said he had to stop to get a free gift box for my mom. Sometimes he'll grab a couple of the cushy bubble envelopes to roll up and use as filler to keep the gift safe. My mom is the opposite, always buys boxes, wrap, tissue paper, ribbon, tags, so at least one of them supports the gift decor industry. Sorry, USPS. Story 41. Probably gonna be buried as I am late. But when I was in uni dorms, a girl in a neighboring flat helped herself to my baking ingredients to make brownies and then charged everyone one for a brownie. Story 42. Honestly, it was probably me. I live in the UK, and we had a pub quiz night in a local bar. It was my first time there, and my shabby, poor self was simply not prepared for the menagerie of sandwiches they put out for quiz contenders. I could feel my arms magnetes to them like to quit on the ground. Next thing I can remember, I have 2 large sandwich platters in each hand, dashing as fast as my frugaloid legs will carry me, with half the bar and staff in pursuit. Bag those bad boys up, and boom, a week's lunch and dinner and sandwiches. No regrets. Story 43. I've got one friend who discovered that if you take a large popcorn tub or soda cup out of the trash, empty it and bring it back to the concessions counter, they'll refill it for you for free. To me, this was the cheapest thing I'd ever seen. Then, another friend decided that he'd skip the middleman and just brush the top few kernels from the tub and directly take and eat popcorn from the theater trash cans. Man, I've got some cheap friends. Story 44. Guy I know who works for CN Rail was caught stealing toilet paper from the bathroom stalls. He said he shouldn't have to pay for it, and that Walmart was a big enough organization that they wouldn't miss the rolls. Story 45. Worked at Wendy's one summer when I was in high school. This one guy would come in and order a large size of fries, dump half of the fries in a bag, and come back and say that he wanted fresh fries and that these ones tasted too stale. I only caught what he was doing because I had noticed that one of the times he complained the fries had just come out of the fryer. Story 46. Okay, this is a true story, unbelievable as it seems. Got a friend who is generally the source of many unbelievable cheapskate stories. So here goes one that I can remember at this moment, and it's not the worst example. He bought a coffee machine a few years back, Keurig capsule ones, because it would save him something like 6 cents per cup of coffee compared to getting his coffee at the local coffee shop. Considering he drinks about 4 to 5 a day, he figured he would pay for the machine and save money after a year or so. I kid you not now, it gets worse. Whenever we went to his house, he would ask if we wanted coffee. We quickly learned to say no, because he would serve us coffee and ask us to pay for it, the cost of the capsule, electricity, and water. And when we protested in disbelief, his retort was it's cheaper than in the store. I kid you not. Story 47. A few years back, I was doing a trial waitressing shift at a cafe for free to see if I could handle the job, etc. The manager owner teaches me what to do and tells me to cut the skin off a bunch of oranges. And so I start the job, cutting away the skin and white pith, so there's only orange flesh. He then comes back and says no, only the skin, and proceeds to demonstrate, cutting the thinnest layer of the skin off, leaving all the white pith. The orange is literally a white ball, just so there's more juice when you grind an orange up. Oranges are one of the cheapest fruits out, and this manager wanted to out as much pith in the juice as possible to bulk it out. At the end of this 3 to 4 hour free trial shift, he then generously offers me a job paying 10 hourman legal wage, is approximate 18 hours if I keep doing well. What a miser.